Welcome everyone to part 4. We're working with Geoboards, and today what we're going to do is just do an introductory fraction. More on the idea of can they find and identify unit fractions, but in some of the common ones too. So this would be appropriate for even a grade 1 student who's learning halves, grade 2 learning quarters, and unit fractions from there on up. And we're going to start with showing them some pre-done geometrical shapes that have been divided. And then we're going to flip it and ask them to demonstrate for us some unit fractions that we're going to call out. So let me grab my board I've created for this scenario. So what we have here, let's see if I can get rid of some of our shadow there. Oh, maybe not. What I've got is a number of quadrilaterals, and within each quadrilateral, we've divided them, and they're divided into equal pieces. So the question we want to ask our students is, what do each of these equal pieces represent? So that means that I've already done some of the work on fractions. I've looked at what it means to be a unit fraction. And you could even equate these to dollars. Now, is there any one here that relates to a dollar based on the number of divisions that you see? So in this case, we're looking for that they can identify that any one of these pieces is 1/4. Now, what you can do, and I use a lot, is you can get those little colorful stickies at dollar stores where you get blues and reds and greens and yellows. And I usually just put one on here. And I say, what does the one that has the sticky, what does that whole piece represent out of this? So if my sticky note had been on here, then this represents 1/4 or 1/4. And I could do the same thing with the ones that are over here because they also represent 1/4. It's a little hard when we're trying to get these to be nice lines, but they don't have a problem with it, so we won't worry about it. So here I would have the representation of 1/3. And here, students will give you a variety of different answers, and it's kind of like the conversation, the number talk that you want to have. What do you see? And so for some students, they're going to say, I see a half, and then I see another half, or I see it over here, or I see it over here. And some students will see that they divided it into 4, they'll see quarters. So really have to tease out what it is. It was meant to talk about quarters because they're evenly divided, but that doesn't mean it has to be that way. Now, we've just picked some common 1/4, 1/3. Now it would be easy for us to turn around and say, can you create a design? And they might start simple as a rectangle, that's fine. That represents a unit fraction of 1/5 and then 1/6. I'm not going to say 1/7 and 1/9. Not that those aren't unit fractions, it's just in everyday language and everyday uses, 1/7 and 1/9 are hard to come up with. 1/10 is a very, very common one for us based on our system, based on our money. So that would be another one that I could do. And how many different ways could they show you 1/5? And they make different shapes. So this would be one now where you're giving them the unit fraction and they get to design it. And maybe we say, I'd like you to try to come up with 3 different shapes. They could even swap that with a partner then. And their partner could go and see if they could identify what the unit fraction was that we were asking them to find. We're not getting into addition or subtraction here. What we're really trying to do is simply put together possibilities. Now, they don't have to have them equally divided like this either. You might have a student who simply takes a picture that looks like this, and depending on what it is they want somebody to see, and this would be higher order thinking from students. I'm just going to take one of these off. So if this is what the student showed, so they have one that's boxed in, and then they have this open piece. They could ask, what does this represent of the whole? Or what does this represent of the whole? So 2 different types of fractions there. One's a unit, one isn't. And so the question would be, depending on what grade they're in, I could ask, what are 2 possible questions you could ask? What are other designs that you could come up with that would have more than one possibility? And there's lots of them. that they would be able to design. So again, it's a matter of where are you at in the fraction world of just introductory fractions, not just showing me a number over a number and just saying it's numerator, denominator, and that's it. It has to be a building piece to this. And so understanding the whole component of a unit fraction and working from here is one way for us to see what they understand. And that's it for that segment. Thanks so much for joining me.